Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today as we dive into Conversational ABM, Personalization Power at Scale. My name is Kelly Lindenau, and I'm the Managing Editor of Demand Gen Report, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm so happy that you all joined us today. Before I pass things over to our presenters, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just bringing everyone up to speed about DGR and the On24 platform. So, if you're not familiar with Demand Gen Report, we're an online media company that specializes in publishing daily news, original research, a variety of special reports, and so many other resources, including our weekly email newsletter. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We share the top news and latest trends on a weekly basis, so be sure to join more than 75,000 of your colleagues by subscribing today. You can sign up at demandgenreport.com. And we would love for you to engage with us online so we can hear your thoughts and feedback throughout the series, so make sure to follow along with us on Twitter and LinkedIn. You can see our handles right there on your screen, so chime in with the hashtag SPS21. And now I'm so excited to announce that the DGR team is going back to in-person for our B2B Marketing Exchange event. Make sure to join us in Scottsdale at the Phoenician from February 28th to March 2nd, 2022. Registration is currently open, so check out our website, b2bmarketing.exchange, to remain up to date on the latest news. And once again, we've partnered with our friends at Grubhub to help some lucky viewers receive a free lunch credit throughout the series. Keep an eye on your inbox to see if lunch is on us. And now we are using the On24 platform for this week's series, so I'm just going to give you all a quick run through of it before we get going. So throughout the session, all the information you need is accessible from the toolbar you see on your screen. Throughout the presentation, we encourage you to submit questions to engage with our presenters. Simply click the Q&A widget in the top right corner of the screen. This webinar is scheduled to last about 25 to 35 minutes, and we'll reserve about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A. Again, you can submit your questions through the Q&A widget at any time. And right below that Q&A widget, you'll be able to access all the SPS sessions we have running this week. And right under that, you'll find some additional resources that we've made available to you. In addition to joining the conversation online and submitting your questions, we also welcome you to let us know how we're doing. We've put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch once this webinar session ends. You can also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon circled here on the bottom of your screen. Before signing off today, please take a minute to complete this quick questionnaire so we can continue to enhance our events to your liking. Finally, today's session is being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review or share with colleagues. And now I'm so pleased to introduce our featured speakers for today, Jon Russo and Sonny Dasgupta. Jon Russo is a three-time global CMO in successful public and private SaaS companies in Silicon Valley, New York, and Luxembourg, scaling businesses through 2 acquisitions and another through an IPO, representing over $3 billion in total market value. He has a passion for digital marketing as an Eloqua Master, Marketo certified user, Salesforce Sales Admin certified user with a deep understanding of email deliverability as the first CMO of ReturnPath, now Validity. Today, he leads B2B Fusion, a sales and marketing performance firm with a focus on account-based strategies and its measurements. Sonny Dasgupta is the head of product marketing at Conversica. He is a consummate marketer, a well-known speaker, and a passionate storyteller with over 15 years of B2B sales and marketing experience. Before joining Conversica, Sonny was the head of product marketing at the SAP Customer Data Cloud. Prior to SAP, Sonny led product marketing at HPE/Micro Focus for their cybersecurity portfolio. Earlier in his career, he spent almost 9 years executing marketing strategies and demand gen programs to build market presence for GRC, IAM, and mobile solutions. Clearly, we have a couple powerhouse speakers with us today. So with that, I would love to pass it over to Sonny to kick us off.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate the introduction. So the way I'm planning to structure this session, and Jon, I hope you're okay with this, I'm going to spend the first 5 to 7 minutes talking about a research survey we did recently regarding the state of account-based marketing and the findings from that survey. Then we'll spend the rest of the time talking about the survey findings. It will mostly be a dialogue between the two of us, Jon and myself. And Jon, since you are a practitioner, I'll ask you a few questions about account-based marketing, what's working, what's not working, what are some of the lessons learned? And then maybe you can ask me a few questions around how we can mitigate some of the challenges or weaknesses of account-based marketing using technology solutions. And in the end, we'll leave some time open for Q&A. Jon, how does it sound to you? Anything you would like to add?
Sounds like a great plan, Sonny. And I appreciate the intro and the opportunity here to be with you.
Awesome. Thank you. So as I mentioned, we just finished a survey called the 2021 State of Account-Based Marketing Report. The survey was done with Renegade Research, an independent third-party research company, which has a lot of experience in RevTech, MarTech space and doing similar kind of survey and research. Our goal was to understand the current state of account-based marketing. How are companies approaching account-based marketing today? How is it working for them? What are some of the challenges they're having? So we interviewed 227 respondents who either worked in sales or marketing. These individuals worked across multiple different industries. I think we saw more than 20 industries, and the folks that we talked to, they're at various levels in their organization. 40% were at a managerial level, and 60% were either at a directors or higher. In terms of the size of the companies, 74% of those we surveyed were at least $100 million or more in revenue or higher in revenue, and 80% worked at companies with at least 1,000 employees. And because we were seeking to understand the impact of account-based marketing on sales and marketing relationship, all of the respondents the respondents that we picked for this survey, they were engaged in account-based marketing, which we defined as currently selling to a defined target account. Now, in terms of the findings, we saw something that's like really very, very interesting and kind of eye-opening. One of the things that we saw is that the traditional divide between sales and marketing has shifted. The constant bickering between marketing and sales, as you know, that the proverbial thing, it has been about sales would say that we are not getting quality leads from marketing, and marketing will reply with, we are giving you quality leads, but you're not following up on them. And this has been, for the longest time, the back and forth between marketing and sales. And while there is no doubt that this divide may still exist in many companies, especially companies that are still pursuing lead-based marketing, for those who have adopted an account-based marketing approach, they have witnessed a new level of alignment, cooperation, and a mutual respect between sales and marketing. The finger pointing has stopped, and ABM has essentially brought sales and marketing together. And some of us thought this would never happen. That said, it's also important to recognize that while the divide has shifted, the conflict now has moved from a strategic issue to more of an executional issue. The thing that's happening now is with marketing is expecting a level of personalization that sales can't simply deliver. There is so much data and just not enough time for sales to deliver the level of personalization that marketing is expecting from them. So that's the new divide. When you ask, so where exactly, precisely, where is the new divide? In a word, personalization. While there is incredible consensus on the effectiveness of personalized communications, personalized conversation, in fact, 96% of both groups believe that personalized communication to prospects are more effective than non-personalized one. And again, this would not come to anybody as surprise. But the surprising thing is that the personalized engagement is not scaling today. The folks we surveyed are saying it's just not possible to personalize everything. And given all the data that's available, it's not surprising that 42% are simply overwhelmed by the amount of data that's available on their ABM platforms. And as a result, we learned that just 23% of salespeople say that they personalize each touch. Only 40% of salespeople use intent data gathered by an ABM platform, which is a huge miss. And the top reason sales is failing to send personalized communications, the top reason is that sales manpower is inadequate. Sales just doesn't have the resources to do this. And the last point in all of this is that if what we talked about, if these things are true, and we still need to deliver personalization at scale, we need to look at automation with technology as a solution to scale. But not just any automation, because you are dealing with your best accounts, your best target accounts. So it needs to be intelligent automation. And that's the summary of the report. You can download the report from this console here today. You can also go to Conversica.com to get a copy of that report. And before we jump into a dialogue with Jon, is there anything else you would like to add here before we get started?
I think you covered it all, Sonny. The report is terrific. You and I spent a lot of time going through it before, and it is very comprehensive. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to take a look at it and download it if you can.
Awesome. So, one of the things that the survey showed us that marketing and sales are aligned on strategy and intent of ABM. Are you seeing the same thing with the organizations that you are helping today? And follow up, also in addition to that, if you could also share a little bit about your ABM philosophy and approach.
Yeah, it's a thoughtful question. And for those in the audience that may not know who we are or who Jon Russo is, we've had over 100 plus account-based experiences in the industry, in large part through relationships like we've built with Sonny's team and other teams to help not only the technical side, but the strategic side of account-based marketing. And to your question about are the survey results mirroring what we see in those engagements? Absolutely. Yep. It's very easy for a C-level executive, and I was once one and guilty of this, of just kind of whitewashing and saying, yeah, that's good, check the box, yeah, we want to do ABM, but not really understanding the depth and magnitude of the change management. And so because of that, I think exactly what your survey found is exactly what we see, which is strategically people line up, but at the operational side of things, they disconnect quickly. Philosophically, and this is how we've made a business, is helping people kind of get that execution side in tune. There's a whole bunch of things that we could talk about there, and I think we will be talking about there in a moment. But that's where we see the lion's share of companies really struggling right now.
Got it. Well, that's good that you talked about what the survey found and your personal experience. They're very consistent. That's really good to hear. So how do highly effective organizations move from a disjointed approach to ABM to a more of a unified ABM strategy when the companies that are still struggling?
Yeah, the companies that we see struggling, we see one of two models. Either one, they're brand new to account-based marketing and they want to get off on the right foot, or two, they've had a misfire. They've had a misfire, meaning they try ABM and it hasn't hit the results because they've never done it before, or they don't know what the outcome looks like or what good looks like. I think the first thing to understand is these types of initiatives are cross-functional. So we use the words ABM, but in fact, it's really account-based. It could be account-based sales, account-based marketing, and now you're hearing customer service. But it's really getting somebody to run that cross-functional communication. That cross-functional communication, if you double-click into it, what we typically like to see is companies that are running regular standing meetings on account-based strategies that have cross-functional representation. This is, of course, assuming that you already have the strategic alignment. That at the top, somebody is saying you want to go after an account-based strategy. So that would be first and foremost. The other challenge that we see, and we'll probably spend some time digging into this in a little bit, is really focusing on which accounts to target and why. And where companies get disconnected is sometimes sales and marketing have differing needs there in terms of an account focus. So for example, sales may say, hey, I'm going to give marketing these really hard accounts to crack, when in fact, marketing is or should be coming to the table with a point of view that's informed on which target accounts to go after. Usually we see that kind of relationship as a very sales-driven relationship. But marketing now has a lot of power to be a peer in that conversation that maybe 5 years ago, we couldn't have that dialogue. So I'd say those are two areas that I would really focus in on in terms of beginning that operational alignment exercise.
Got it. I think it's really great to hear that, that the cross-functional, between team alignment and what you're suggesting, that marketing should come to the table with a perspective point of view, which brings me to the next question, and it's perfect. So what does an ideal team structure across sales and marketing look like to support the ABM strategy? And does this change when you are going for high levels of personalization?
Ooh, really big questions there. So let's take it in two parts. So there's lots of variations of account-based strategies. There's one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many. And typically what we find is those strategies really depend on what go-to-market motion the company currently has and where they want to go next. A common theme that we typically see, though, in each of those motions in terms of organization and shortcomings is skill sets in and around product marketing and sales enablement. And let me explain what I mean by that. You're a career product marketer, Sonny, so you really understand product marketing better than most. What we see is there's a challenge with a lot of companies, particularly out on the East Coast here of the US, where they have to identify the right message, the right ICP, the right persona. Otherwise, if you don't have that information or if you don't have a good hypothesis, the risk is you embark on a lot of activity, a lot of technology investment, and you miss the mark on anything that is revenue generating from an account-based perspective. So I'd say product marketing is the first area that we see as kind of a key weak point. The other consistent area that we see as a key weak point is sales enablement. And let me explain what I mean by that. And you kind of mentioned it, Sonny, where a number of companies that want to get into the level of personalization can't because they don't have a lot of time. And at the sales level, some of the salespeople are more junior in their career, and they're trying to synthesize or being asked to synthesize a lot of information in a short amount of time to personalize that, that outreach. What sales enablement can do is almost be a coach, either to SDRs or to the sales team. And it's really unique skill sets because on one hand, you've got to understand the selling process. On the other hand, you have to understand the tools and the technology. If you can get both of those right, it's almost like oil on an engine. They can facilitate faster and more effective communication. So to answer your question, those are the two parts that we really see. And it relates to your other question about personalization, where companies really can make an impact is that sales enablement and that aspect of personalization, because they can give the attention at the kind of at the rep level of what has to happen from a personalization perspective.
Got it. Well, that gives me a lot to think about, and you know, for being in product marketing, and I work very closely with my sales enablement counterpart. I mean, who is fantastic at what she does, and so, but yeah, thanks for kind of pointing that out. I think it gives me a lot to think about, and maybe have some private, you know, questions for you at a later point of time. Which brings us to, like, how are you measuring success of your account-based marketing program with organizations that you are helping today? And anything you plan to change or refine the way you are doing things?
Yeah, measurement for account-based anything is really challenging. And the way we think of the world is we call it a unified funnel. So we like to measure any go-to-market motion: inbound, meaning your old lead model; outbound, SDRs, partners, product-led growth. We take all of that into one funnel and measure volume and velocity. And the key to that measurement is really the marketing qualified account. It's the key level to figure out what engagement goes into a marketing qualified account. There's technology that can facilitate that, ABM platforms that are out there today that can help identify the marketing qualified account. But if you get the process right and you think through kind of the endpoint of your reporting, and as an organization, you really define what that marketing qualified account is, your ability to report on volume and velocity is head and shoulders above everyone else. And we've been able to do this in Salesforce and not add additional technology, just leverage existing technology. In fact, even be able to get ROI determined by the technology that facilitates those inputs into the marketing qualified account. So that's typically at a broad view of what we're looking at. At a more micro view with account-based motions, there's typically leading and lagging indicators. And this is where that disconnect in your survey, Sonny, that we were reviewing,
yep.
We see this a lot, where executives are kind of focused on the lagging indicators, meaning where's the revenue? And everybody else that's doing the work, it's a monumental shift from kind of a thought process of a demand gen approach to now an account-based approach. And there's a lot of work that has to go into that. So we line up some leading indicators as part of our engagements, and then the lagging indicators are really the impact on the pipeline. And when you think about a 6 to 18 month sales process, it's pretty typical that in month 3, it's unlikely you're going to see immediate revenue from your account-based initiative. But will you see engaged accounts if you've defined it and everybody agrees what an engaged account is? Yes, you should definitely be seeing those leading indicators going into the revenue pipeline. So that's how we kind of think about the unified funnel and its measurement. It's critical for CMOs or heads of revenue to have one source of the truth in order to figure out what to do as part of that measurement, because if they don't do that, then you've got dueling funnels. You have marketing's view, you have sales view, and we've been to that movie before. Sales will always win. And as marketers, we don't want to be in that situation. And I've been in that situation as a head of marketing too. It's an uncomfortable situation when you're trying to convince the board or your peers and sales, look at everything we've done, when it should be the same exact information that sales is also presenting. So that's why we're so maniacal about the unified funnel.
Got it. A couple of follow-up questions on this topic. I was having a recent conversation with a group of ABM experts, and one of the topic that came up is how MQL is dead. And I know you have a strong opinion on this topic. I would love to hear your thoughts. I think you are on mute. John, are you on mute?
Sorry about that.
Could you start from the beginning, please?
Yes, I can. I'm glad you asked this question because it relates directly to the unified funnel piece that we were just talking about. And how it relates is you'll find a lot of theorists talking about the MQL is dead. And some of those organizations are incented to be saying that. But in our surveying, what we have found is about 70% of companies still have a lead-based model. And the problem, leads meaning the leads object in Salesforce, and they've got an MQL type designation. The problem is we've spent the last 12 years educating CEOs, CFOs, board of directors, how great marketing can be measured on a lead-based model. And it works. Like, we've got them believing it. So it's a really tough proposition to then just abandon that and then go to something new to say, hey, we're just going to focus on an account-based motion. And two use cases that we see specifically feeding into this. And remember, I talked about that marketing qualified account. If you think about contact us or a demo now as two inputs into that marketing qualified account, those could be considered MQLs. So I almost see an MQL as a component of a marketing qualified account. Now, would I take somebody out to dinner on an MQL? Would I want my marketing team incented just on MQLs? Probably not, because you could be chasing a few ghosts there. So I could kind of understand some skepticism of the model. The however is it works, and you have the ability to retrofit and build around it. It's just that people haven't looked at it the same way that we've looked at it after we've done 100+ of these. We now know that you can keep what you have and build around it rather than doing a tear down and going to your organization saying, hey, we need a whole new way of measuring marketing. So that's kind of our philosophy on that.
Yeah. What I got from this, John, is that right now where companies are, we are in a transitional phase. And MQL is not dead yet, but the importance of MQL is not what it used to be.
Yes.
And of course, okay, got it. That makes sense. And the other question I had for you as a follow-up, you mentioned about the leading indicator and lagging indicators. My challenge with lagging indicators is that by the time that you're not delivering revenue or your ABM program is not working, and you're looking at lagging indicators, it's too late. There is nothing, you can't do anything. You know that it's not working, but you don't have the options to go make changes. How do you feel about that? Is that the right way to think about it? And is that why you established the leading indicators?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on the leading and lagging. It's almost like you have to show a maturity curve of what to expect and when to expect things. And the hard thing is a lot of execs, like we were saying, are focused on that lagging indicator side. You almost have to go in with hypotheses or micro hypotheses into each of these situations. And if you're not getting the results, then be able to pivot or turn based on what you're seeing. So that's why we really kind of lay out almost a maturity curve of measurement of you should expect this by this time, Y by this time, Z by this time, before you start seeing the revenue into the funnel. So it's a process, unfortunately, and there's no way around that. And that's where a lot of companies get hung up. Like they just expect the easy button on an account-based motion, and it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist, and nobody's got the appetite, at least here in the U.S., or I should say in the mid-market companies that we deal with that are growing quickly. They're all interested in it. They all invest in the technology, but very few have the appetite to really see it through. But those that are seeing it through, and we've got examples of this, Snowflake being one, They're seeing tremendous revenue, and they've done control groups versus ABM versus not, and they've seen better velocity, better volume. Same thing with Bizarre Voice. There's a handful of them that are seeing through the lagging indicator success because they put in the work. But people just have to. It's like anything in life. You have to really put in the work to get the result.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If you define the right metrics and you come with a strong hypothesis, and then you track those, your lagging indicators will follow. You probably would get results, the results that you're expecting from your ABM program. That makes complete sense. Diving a little deep into intent data, which is a very important part of ABM success. How is marketing using intent data today, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a thoughtful question around intent data, because marketers can do a lot of personalization with that information. So in one way, they can use that information to target better and more effectively based on keywords or topic surges. On another way, going back to what I was saying early in the conversation, intent data is a great tool to have a hypothesis about what accounts are in market or not in market, to then present back to sales to say, here's where I think we should be focused in an account-based motion. So that's where marketers can really level the playing field. And typically marketers are the ones that have the discretionary budget where they can do the investment in intent data. So that's typically where we see intent data. There are other use cases, and I wrote a big blog post on this. I can put a link in the description, but there's account level intent and there's contact level intent. So it really depends on what your specific use case is. We're starting to see a lot more mixing and matching of intent providers. So it's not just a solo provider, it's multiple providers, right, and typically at the account and at the contact level.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Multiple intent data providers and both at an account level and at a contact level. Oh, that makes sense. Now, kind of as a follow-up to that question, or maybe the other part of that question, how is sales using intent data today? What data is valuable to them, and what are some of the challenges that sales face consistently executing and leveraging intent data to personalize?
Yeah, and this is actually a friction area that we see, Sonny, in a lot of engagements right now. And, us marketers, or we marketers, we live in a complex world, and we kind of relish in the complexity. If you look at our sales counterparts, they need simplicity. They are very limited in time. They're trying to synthesize information. They're trying to connect with people. It's an incredibly challenging job. So the last thing marketers want to be doing is making that job more complex. With intent data, there's two paths that you can take. You can make things simple, or you can make things more complex. The path that we suggest is we see intent data as an ingredient in the marketing qualified account. So the intent data is how the sausage is made. From a sales perspective, the reason they like that is they have one unit of measurement to execute against. They don't have to think about what's intent data, what's a keyword search, what's an intent score, what's a lead score. There's too many scores to think about. Mm-hmm. Now, typically what we see is the inverse of that, where marketing is trying to train sales and trying to get them up to speed on intent data, the different words, what they mean. All sales really needs is a prioritization of which accounts to work on and when. And that's why we think feeding intent data into the marketing qualified account, kind of at the top of the funnel, is more valuable than necessarily going down the stack of intent data. Now, there's some odd use cases there. For example, some of the peer review sites where some of that information is good for some companies further down the funnel, but I'd say that's kind of a unique use case. By and large, we like to simplify it and really put intent as part of that marketing qualified account.
Got it. Well, that's really, I mean, you give me a lot to think about. Uh, Go back to work with my, is being a product marketer, and I've been doing product marketing for a long time. Work with my cross-functional team, sales enablement, and others, sales enablement and other teams, and maybe even customer success to kind of think about um, how to put together a better aligned strategy between marketing and sales. So yeah, thank you. I wanted to check if you have any questions for me. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
we've had a chance to go back and forth and talk a lot about the survey. But one question I didn't get a chance to ask you about the survey is, what surprised you out of all that information?
Yeah, I mean, I think multiple things, surprised me about this survey. I think the first thing is that the divide between marketing and sales has shifted. I didn't expect that. The fact that there is alignment on strategy, but there is a massive gap when it comes to execution. I think that was an aha moment for me. Um, it would have taken me a lot longer to have figured it out on my own. I'm sure I would have, read research somewhere or come to realize it at some point of time. But I think this just whole expedited the entire process, and I'm really thankful for the research we did and the learnings that came from it. The second thing is that the whole personalization drops off as you go down the funnel, right? You would think that the more you interact with a customer, the more you know about them, the more personalization you are going to provide, right? That's what you would think. So that was a little surprising that the more for me, the more you know the customer, the less personalization you're providing. And I was just sitting there thinking, what could be a possible explanation for that? And one explanation, I could think of is, once a relationship has been established between, salesperson and a contact in your target account, once that context is in place, you probably need different types of personalization, not the same type of personalization as you were doing in the initial conversations. So it may be more subliminal, it may be more covert than it's like, external and overt. So that was one thought that came to my mind. But then the other thing I was thinking about is that, it could just be an execution gap. Like if you can't scale, okay, the first few conversations, you're doing a good job of using, firmographic, technographic, intent data, sales stage, all of this stuff, all this data that you have, you're using somewhat effectively to deliver personalization in the early stages. But then it's just difficult to keep up when you are trying to do this manually. And the third thing that I was like really surprising for me was the underuse of intent data. We saw that over 60% of professionals, B2B professionals don't use, especially in sales, don't use intent data, during their research process. To me, that data is the key to your success in delivering personalization. That's like pure gold. So that data is so powerful to engage customers, to engage your prospects, to improve the entire buying experience. So I found that also super surprising.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying there. And everybody seems to wrestle with that whole personalization at scale. And you're definitely talking about a lot of surprises there. I guess if you follow that along, or follow that theme along, where do you see companies stumbling in terms of how do you personalize at scale, even with technology? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about account-based marketing, right? Look, selling complex solutions into large enterprises, it's not an easy thing, because primarily because no single person can simply pull the trigger on a deal without consulting with an interconnected matrix of people, each with his or her own KPIs, challenges, success criteria. So it's a difficult thing. And what ABM platforms are great at is giving you the insights, right? But you know the customer, you know the account, you know your target buyers or contacts, but it doesn't help with the execution. And we see organizations struggle to use the ABM insights effectively at scale due to the lack of resources, which really, that is what causes the execution gap. And then this execution gap that you have, it creates fragmentation between sales and marketing, which then leads to missed or lost opportunities, longer sales cycle, and maybe even poor customer experience or buying experience. So we need to fill this gap, using technology, and we need to think about how you augment this human engagement with the power of automation. And this is what we see, some of the smart companies that we are working with, that they're doing today. They're augmenting their workforce with artificial intelligence, machine learning solutions across their entire revenue cycle to drive personalization at scale. Because I work with Conversica, I see that the specific solution that they are using is called Conversational AI solution. Using AI assistants, you can augment your team to do what people can do or don't do well. And these AI assistants could help you drive better engagement, which will in return drive better revenue, higher revenue for your organization. So that's what we see, that kind of the role of technology in solving the engagement, personalized engagement at scale challenge.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I know we've had some mutual customer experiences together, and we've seen you at close range and at firsthand, and definitely different from an ABM platform. But you had kind of mentioned the conversational ABM approach. Maybe you can go into that a little bit further and kind of differentiate that between that and maybe an ABM platform for those that might not be familiar with the different terminologies.
Yeah, no, that's. So, I used conversational ABM, and I've talked about conversational AI, and sometimes that could be confusing. So let me clarify that. So I think of conversational ABM as the love child of ABM and conversational AI coming together. Look, ABM is all about the knowledge and insight about the account and contacts within that account and what needs to be done. Conversational AI, if you look at it, on the other hand, it's all about execution of that insight. Because I believe insight without action is delusion. But so far, conversational AI has mostly been used for lead-based marketing. However, as the technology is maturing, as we are able to provide a higher level of personalization using conversational AI, taking this intent data, taking this firmographic, technographic, psychographic data, demographic data, we are seeing tremendous possibilities for conversational AI to be used in ABM capabilities. So to kind of net it out, when you take the insight from ABM and use that insight to deliver personalized engagement at scale, you have conversational ABM.
Makes a ton of sense. I love what you said there. And let me make sure I heard it right. You were basically saying that the insights that you're gathering without the action is delusional. Did I hear that right?
Exactly.
That is awesome. That should be your new tagline.
Yes. Yeah, I should copyright it. Funny.
Well, that's excellent. I think you did kind of share kind of the differences. Is there anything else that, from a a conversational ABM solution perspective that you would add that you didn't cover in terms of what else it's capable of doing? Or I imagine it would save some of the salespeople's time too as part of that technology. But is there anything else to add before we wrap things up here?
Yeah. So I mean, hey, look, I mean, a couple of things I would say. Conversational AI is a new technology, right? I mean, and a lot of companies are still not aware of it, and even companies that are aware of it and that are using it, at times we see they're skeptical. If it can be used in customer interactions, because customer conversations, like anytime you're talking to your target accounts and key contacts within the target account, these conversations are highly nuanced and highly sensitive. So there's always this question: can technology handle that? But we are seeing that companies who are using conversational AI or conversational ABM, they understand the power of it. I talk to customers frequently who talk about how it has completely changed their customer engagement strategy and the value they're getting out of it. Today, smart companies in every industry, they're trying to get an edge, and conversational AI and for ABM, which is conversational ABM, is one of those technologies that they are looking at very closely to establish that competitive advantage. So that was one of the things that I wanted to share. And I also want to talk about conversational ABM solutions. So some of the expectation, like what can you expect from conversational ABM solution, right? Look, at a high level, conversational ABM does three things. Number one, it helps you engage with your customers and prospects, right? It accelerates your deal cycle. Like when you have that level of engagement, of course, it makes sense. As a result, your sales cycle would move smoother, faster. And it helps you deliver iconic buying experience and customer experience, right? Because who likes to be contacted, reached out, who'd like to buy something when they are not engaged? I mean, nobody would. So I think that's really, really important. So the power of account-based marketing is clearly beyond dispute, John. I mean, you are helping companies, and it's obvious that companies are seriously taking a look at it and seriously using it. Smart marketers and sellers know that personalized engagement and target account-focused strategies work better than the pray and spray approach. So ABM helps you to identify your best target accounts, but how well do you pursue and engage those opportunities? Conversational AI makes it easy to put account-based insights, like, for example, your firmographic, buyer's persona, sales stage, intent data, into highly personalized engagement. And your conversational AI assistant can engage prospects by delivering a human-like, two-way personalized engagement, personalized conversation at scale. You can also engage your customers on their terms by communicating across channels, whether it's email, whether it's SMS, or when they come to your website in a website chat. And all the while, you are motivating them to take the next best action in driving revenue. So that's really the power of conversational ABM, a technology that's really helping account-based marketing to close that execution gap and be all it can be.
That's awesome. I know that I said that was my last question, but if we want to find the report, where do we find the report again? Or you want to drop it in the link in the Q&A maybe?
Yeah, we can do that. Actually, it's available on this console, right? So they can download it from here. They can also go to conversica.com and look at our resources section, and the report will be available there. So they can download it from there, or they can download it from this console right here. So both options are available.
Cool.
So, John, thank you so much for having this dialogue with me. Really, really enjoyed it. And so what I would like to do is hand it back to Kelly to see if there are some questions that we have here that we can answer, audience questions.
Yes, absolutely. We have some great questions rolling in, but before we get to those, I just have to quickly remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today by clicking on the survey icon at the bottom of your screen, which will also launch automatically. Now we can get to the questions. So the first question I'm going to grab is, this is a good one. How do we see intent data deployed in clients versus what people say it should be?
I'm guessing that's
I can take that. Yeah. Typically what we see is marketers have a strong appetite because we're really good at buying technology, and we underestimate the sales side of their ability to digest information, tools, new processes. So we hear a lot about the promise of intent data, and there is a lot of promise, but the execution of it, particularly on the sales side, can be pretty challenging based on some of the things that I shared earlier. So that's really the kind of the one disconnect that we hear kind of consistently.
Awesome, thank you. And now we are running out of time, but I just want to grab one more question before we sign off for the day. So someone asked, does Conversica offer customers the ability to edit conversations?
Oh, that's a good question. I can take that. Yes, we do offer our customers the ability to edit conversation. We have to, because every customer scenario is unique. You're in a different industry, you have different solutions, your target accounts are different, target buyers, contacts are different. So of course we give you the ability to edit that type of data, and it's the data that you're getting from your ABM platform or your marketing automation platform or CRM platform. So that's the variable, the data that's coming. You can take and customize them based on the target accounts, the target buyer, and the buyer context. But there is a piece of that which we don't allow to edit, to modify. I'll tell you why that is. It's because we have been in business for a long time, and the machine learning that we have, our AI is constantly learning from many customer engagement. So it knows, based on those interactions, what works and what doesn't. And they know that a certain subject line would never work. Like if you have a dollar sign on your subject line, it's gonna go to your junk mail. So we have that knowledge and insight, and that's how we have put together those best practices. So yes, we allow you to modify parts of the conversation that is, very custom to your environment, your situation. And then there are other things that we don't allow to modify because we know they have consistently delivered fantastic results. So I hope that answered the question, Kelly.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So unfortunately, we are out of time today, but if we didn't get to your questions live, don't worry. We will be sending up follow-up emails to answer everything. And so that's it. So thank you so much, Sonny and Jon, for such a great session today. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. We'll have this session ready for on-demand viewing very shortly. But in the meantime, don't miss our next SPS session, How to Transform Your 2022 Revenue Pipeline with the Calendar First Approach, where I'll also be your moderator. See you there, and thanks again.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Jon. Bye-bye.